Elon Musk may have been mocked for his casual demeanor, but when the judge saw what he could do in the courtroom, everything changed. It was a high-profile day in court as Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur and CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, sat at the defendant's table. The case? A legal battle with one of the world's most prestigious companies over a breach of contract. Musk was known for his unorthodox methods, but no one expected the courtroom to turn into a stage for one of the most unexpected encounters in legal history. The judge, a seasoned veteran of the bench, had seen his fair share of high-profile cases, but Elon Musk's reputation had preceded him. As the case started, the judge, Judge Emily Harris, who had built a career out of running a tight courtroom, took one look at Musk's casual appearance, his hoodie and jeans, and couldn't help but chuckle. "Mr. Musk," she began with a slight smirk, "I'm sure you've heard that the courtroom is a place for respect, but I see you've chosen to dress down for the occasion. I must say, it's not what I expected." The courtroom was silent as the judge's words echoed through the space. Musk remained unfazed, offering a small smile. The audience couldn't tell if he was trying to make a statement or if he just didn't care about the traditional rules of the court. Judge Harris, clearly amused, turned to the lawyers on either side. "Well, I suppose we'll see if Mr. Musk has any respect for the legal system once he's up against it." She laughed, her voice cutting through the room like a sharp knife. It was clear she wasn't taking Musk seriously, yet. As the case continued, the judge's mockery continued to build. She rolled her eyes at Musk's responses, dismissing them as nothing more than billionaire antics. But little did she know, this was only the beginning. What happened next would change the course of the trial and leave the judge stunned. Elon Musk wasn't just the unkempt tech mogul people assumed him to be. He was about to demonstrate something that no one saw coming. As the trial progressed, Elon Musk seemed to pay little attention to the judge's earlier mocking remarks. He sat there, relaxed, seemingly unfazed by the tension in the room. The judge, on the other hand, continued to look at him with a mixture of amusement and skepticism. She expected him to make the same old billionaire mistakes, arrogance, shortcuts, and trying to buy his way out. But Elon had something entirely different in mind. The case was centered around a complicated breach of contract, with both sides presenting their evidence. But as the courtroom turned to the next phase, Musk stood up, surprising everyone in the room. He walked to the front of the courtroom, not with the usual lawyer's script, but with a sense of purpose and confidence that made even the most experienced lawyers pause. Judge Harris raised an eyebrow as Musk stood in front of the judge's desk, calmly and methodically outlining his defense. He didn't just rely on standard legal arguments. He spoke about the very nature of innovation and business contracts, discussing the intricacies of modern technology, intellectual property, and the global impact of his companies in ways that no one had anticipated. The courtroom was silent, with even the opposing lawyers pausing to listen to Musk's legal insights. He didn't just present facts. He made connections, bridged gaps, and framed the case in a way that made the judge rethink her entire perspective. The judge, who had earlier laughed at Musk, now found herself hanging on every word. "Your Honor," Musk said, his voice calm but unwavering, "this isn't just about a breach of contract. It's about the future, how innovation and industry need the freedom to push boundaries. These agreements were signed with that understanding, and now those principles are being ignored." The judge's smile faded as she realized Musk wasn't just talking about law. He was speaking from a deep understanding of the very essence of business and technology. She had underestimated him, thinking that his casual approach meant he lacked the rigor of a seasoned lawyer. But what Musk revealed next was more than just legal acumen. It was a strategy that could change everything in the courtroom. As Musk continued, the tables turned. The judge, who had previously mocked him, now found herself questioning her assumptions about both the case and the man standing before her. This wasn't the arrogant tech mogul she had expected. Instead, Musk demonstrated a level of legal expertise and foresight that stunned her. He wasn't just fighting for a case. He was rewriting the rules of the game. As Elon Musk's defense continued, the judge, once so confident in her initial dismissal of him, now struggled to keep up with the intricacies of his argument. His ability to weave complex legal concepts with real-world applications, especially in the tech and business sectors, began to take the courtroom by storm. For the first time, Judge Harris was truly listening. She leaned forward in her chair, her hands resting on the desk as she observed the way Musk effortlessly addressed the key issues. He wasn't just defending himself. He was laying out the flaws in the opposing side's arguments, showing them how their claims failed to understand the evolving nature of innovation. The other lawyers in the room exchanged uneasy glances. They hadn't prepared for Musk to be this sharp, this prepared. As Musk spoke, the tone in the room shifted. His words weren't just legal jargon. They resonated on a deeper level, touching on issues of fairness, the pace of modern business, and the very nature of the agreements that govern such massive industries. Even the most seasoned attorneys were impressed by how well Musk articulated his points, as though his entire life had been a preparation for this moment. The judge, her arms folded, now looked at Musk with newfound respect. No longer was she laughing at him or dismissing him as another tech billionaire. She was witnessing something truly remarkable, a man who had built his empire on his intellect, not just his wealth. Musk was now teaching her about the intersection of law and progress, showing her that the legal framework often struggled to keep pace with the speed of technology. By the time he finished his defense, there was a moment of stunned silence. The room, once filled with tension and doubt, now hummed with a sense of awe. Judge Harris sat back in her chair, her expression unreadable, but it was clear that she had been taken aback. Musk hadn't just defended his company. He had made the entire courtroom question its understanding of modern business. "Mr. Musk," Judge Harris finally said, her voice softer than before, "I must admit, you've given us all much to think about." Musk nodded, not gloating, but simply acknowledging the shift. It wasn't about winning in the traditional sense. It was about changing the game and making others see things from his perspective. But just as it seemed like Musk had the upper hand, the opposing side came forward with a new piece of evidence. The courtroom tensed, unsure of what would happen next. Just as the tension in the courtroom seemed to settle, the opposing counsel stood up, holding a thick folder in his hand. The air was charged with anticipation as he walked toward the judge, his eyes gleaming with what seemed like newfound confidence. He placed the folder on the judge's desk and turned to face the room, his voice carrying the weight of the new evidence. "Your Honor, we have recently uncovered new documentation," the attorney said, his tone calculated. The room went silent, as all eyes turned to him, waiting for the bombshell he was about to drop. These documents show that Tesla's corporate structure has been involved in multiple violations of prior agreements. This evidence proves a clear breach of contract, and the defendant's company has failed to uphold basic clauses set forth in the agreement. The courtroom buzzed with whispered murmurs. Musk remained still, his face impassive, but his eyes narrowed ever so slightly. He had prepared for many things during this trial, but this was not one of them. The papers the opposing counsel had presented were a game changer. It was as though the foundation of Musk's defense was now at risk. Judge Harris, who had begun to lean back in her chair with a sense of satisfaction from Musk's earlier presentation, now leaned forward again. Her fingers lightly tapped the table, her face unreadable as she scanned the new evidence. The documents were detailed and seemed to show discrepancies that could damage Musk's case significantly. The courtroom was filled with nervous energy as the opposing lawyer finished his presentation. Musk's defense team was quick to react, but the new evidence posed a real challenge. They had not anticipated this development. The once seemingly confident Musk now seemed deep in thought, calculating his next move, his fingers lightly resting on the table in front of him. After a long pause, Musk stood up, his calm demeanor never wavering. The room fell silent as all eyes were on him. He knew that his usual approach wouldn't cut it this time. He needed to think outside the box, as he always did when the odds seemed impossible. "I'm not going to deny that these documents raise questions," Musk began, his voice firm, but measured. "But this is not the whole story. Let's look at the bigger picture." He paused for a moment before continuing, carefully crafting his words. Musk wasn't going to let the documents take him down. He was about to turn the tables once again. "I'm not here to argue technicalities. I'm here to argue fairness. These documents, they're misleading and lack context. They fail to account for the external factors that have driven the company's decisions. This is a simple case of misunderstanding the complexities of what we do." As Musk spoke, he began to deconstruct the evidence piece by piece, revealing inconsistencies and flaws. His ability to break down the complex documents left the courtroom in awe. The opposing attorney, once so confident, now stood at a loss, unable to counter Musk's explanation. Judge Harris, who had been listening intently, raised her hand. "Mr. Musk, your argument is compelling, but it's clear that we need more time to fully evaluate these documents and their impact on the case." Musk nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He had successfully managed to buy more time, but the final decision would depend on how the judge interpreted the new evidence. The trial wasn't over yet. What started as a small seat in the courtroom had now escalated into a battle of wits, and Musk wasn't backing down. The courtroom was filled with tension as the judge called for a brief recess. Musk's team huddled together, their eyes fixed on the documents that had just been presented. The opposing counsel had placed a significant obstacle in front of them, but Musk was never one to back down from a challenge. He knew that the true test was now ahead, his ability to not only overcome this new evidence, but to turn it into an advantage. Elon Musk, despite the odds, remained calm. He had been in tight spots before, and this was no different. After a few moments of quiet deliberation, Musk stood and approached his legal team. "We need to reframe the narrative," he said, his voice steady. He wasn't going to let these documents derail him. He was going to rewrite the story. As the recess ended, the courtroom reconvened, and all eyes were on Musk. He stood confidently in front of the judge, ready to address the evidence head-on. There was no denying that the documents were damning at first glance, but Musk's brilliance lay in his ability to see beyond the surface. "Your Honor, I acknowledge the documents." "Presented!" Musk began, his voice carrying through the silent room. "But I believe they misrepresent the nature of our operations and fail to consider the larger context in which these decisions were made." He pointed to the inconsistencies in the documents with precision. Musk's team had spent hours combing through the new evidence, finding flaws, and preparing counterarguments. Musk outlined how the documents didn't account for external market pressures, technological challenges, and the rapid pace of innovation that Tesla and his companies had been navigating. "The way this case is being framed is a misunderstanding of the broader picture," Musk continued, his tone unwavering. "We've always prioritized progress over perfection, and these decisions were made with that in mind." His words resonated in the courtroom, and even the judge leaned forward, intrigued by Musk's argument. For the first time since the trial began, it was clear that the tide was turning in Musk's favor. The opposing counsel, now visibly rattled, struggled to find a way to counter Musk's detailed breakdown. Musk wasn't just defending himself. He was demonstrating the bigger, more important picture that had been overlooked. The judge remained silent as Musk finished his argument, clearly taking everything into consideration. The room was tense, but there was a shift in the air. Musk had done what seemed impossible. He had managed to turn the tide of the trial, not just with legal arguments, but with a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding his company. "Judge," Harris finally spoke, her voice calm but full of respect. "Mr. Musk, you've presented a compelling case. I believe further deliberation is required, but I am inclined to think that this case is not as clear-cut as it originally appeared." For the first time in the trial, Musk allowed himself a small smile. The battle wasn't over yet, but he had done what no one thought he could. He had not only defended himself, he had shifted the entire trajectory of the case. The courtroom fell into a heavy silence as the judge retired to deliberate. The clock ticked slowly, each minute stretching longer than the last. Elon Musk stood by his team, waiting for the decision that could change the outcome of this entire case. The opposing counsel had tried their best to discredit him, to prove the validity of the evidence. But Musk's ability to dissect the documents and frame the situation within the broader context had left everyone questioning their assumptions. After what seemed like an eternity, the judge finally returned to her seat. Her face was unreadable as she adjusted her glasses and looked over the room. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, with everyone waiting to hear the verdict that could either validate Musk's defense or leave him at the mercy of the court. Judge Harris took a moment to gather her thoughts before addressing the room. After reviewing all the evidence and considering the arguments from both sides, I have reached a decision. Her words were measured, but the weight of them felt heavy in the air. She paused for a moment before continuing, her voice calm and firm. While there are still some discrepancies that need to be addressed, I find that the defendant, Mr. Musk, has successfully demonstrated that the evidence presented does not support the claims made against his company. Tesla's business decisions, while unconventional, were made with the intent of pushing innovation forward and addressing larger issues in the industry. The room went quiet. Musk's heart raced as the judge continued. Therefore, I am ruling in favor of the defense. For a brief moment, no one moved. Then, Musk's legal team erupted in quiet celebration. Musk himself remained calm, though a faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. It was a hard-fought victory, one that had required not just legal expertise, but vision and strategic thinking that no one else had anticipated. The opposing counsel, who had once been confident of their victory, now stood in stunned silence. They hadn't expected Musk to turn the case around the way he had. Judge Harris turned her gaze to Musk, nodding slightly. Mr. Musk, your defense was thorough and your presentation compelling. This case has shown that understanding the complexities of technology and business is as important as understanding the law. You have my respect for that. Musk gave a small nod, his eyes reflecting the respect he had earned. It was clear that the trial was more than just about winning. It was about demonstrating the value of vision, perseverance, and thinking outside the box, even in the most challenging situations. As the courtroom began to clear, Daniel felt a deep sense of relief. He had fought not just for himself, but for his company and the future of innovation. What started as a moment of mockery had turned into a testament to his resilience and intellect. This wasn't just a legal victory. It was a reminder that sometimes the greatest victories come when you challenge the rules and turn the game in your favor.